Hello everyone, it's good to see you all back. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most interesting Void Warlock builds you can run in Destiny 2, the Nova Warp Void Warlock, with a twist of Nezarec Sin and the power of Deterministic Chaos. If you're ready to melt through enemies with unstoppable void energy, this is the build for you. So let's start with the general aim and exotic of the build. Our plan is to utilize Nova Warp's functionality, while further combining this with a well-rounded debuff kit designed for stripping everything down. For this, we'll be using Nezarec Sin and Deterministic Chaos. As done with exotic armor, Nezarec Sin, with its exotic effect, Abyssal Extractor, it states, avoid damage kills increase ability energy recharge rate. Choosing the following exotic was a bit difficult at first, as originally I was going to pick Astrocyte Verse for the Nova Warp combo. However, I found that this wouldn't be so much beneficial in any way, since that exotic is way more designed for PvP rather than PvE. Hence why I stuck with Nezarec Sin instead for its basic ease of access. This exotic is great as it works well with the void setup I have in mind, and with the rapid cooldown rate our super already has, it will see even more greater benefits going forward. Our second exotic is Deterministic Chaos, with its exotic effect Vexidecimal, which states, is strong against barrier champions. While holding down the trigger, every fourth heavy metal projectile also weakens targets on impact. Deterministic offers us an additional method of weakening and the ability to break barrier champion shields. Although the build has multiple ways of debuffing, having another one added will make the kit even more well-rounded when taken into endgame. To be honest, I didn't see the point of adding on something like Bad Juju to the build, as super regen rate is already quite good, and since Deterministic is overlooked by the community, I wanted to show off more of it in terms of what it can provide overall. For aspects and fragments, we then have the following. A Child with your gods where using your class ability will generate a void soul that will drain, weaken and deal damage to enemies afflicted by it. A Feed of Void where using your void abilities and netting a kill will grant you Devour. Echo of Instability where getting a kill with a grenade will grant you volatile rounds for void weapons. Echo of Harvest where defeating a weakened enemy creates an orb of power and void breach. Echo of Expulsion where a void ability thunder blows will cause a target to explode. And Echo of Persistence, where void buffs applied to you are increased. With the build being based around mobility and debuffs, I decided to double down on the idea even more by using the fragments and aspects applied. We currently have around 6 ways to apply a major debuff on the enemies. 4 of them will provide a massive boost of damage increasement for us in pretty much all formats available. To make the appeal of the build worthwhile, I applied the Harvest Fragment, Suppressor Grenades and Supernova Seasonal Mod to create an interesting and reliable setup that can apply volatile rounds and weaken through any void weapons we have on hand. Although Deterministic can easily do this for us, its main weakness is its magazine size and lack of DPS over time. This method though is easier to proc since we always have a grenade available through Nezarec, and allows us to freely swap between different weapons we have on hand if we don't like the void weapon of choice. For me, this feels a bit more interesting and fun to experiment with, since we don't have to follow a genre loadout. We now have the option to really get aggressive with what we have currently selected, and actually see a lot of benefit from our super in more than one way. For the mods and stats, we have Resilience and Discipline marked with the highest priorities for the build. Recovery is also important, but we'll be relying on fragments to help us out for that. Resilience, we have ours at tier 10 for a 30% damage reduction. I've added the Concussive Dampener mod to assist with additional splash damage applied to us, and I would also advise you having a weapon that has the Repulsor Brace perk built into it, as that extra level of defense can be a lifesaver when using Nova Warp and need to quickly recover damage or health over time. A Discipline, we then have ours at tier 10 for a 1 minute 1 second cooldown via Suppressor Grenades. Suppressors are a tricky grenade to use because of how they interact with the environment and can also disable your abilities if not aimed correctly. The purpose in the build though is to work alongside with the Echo of Harvest for the Void Breach effect, and then use that with the Supernova mod for the weakening effect, and Serve Cold mod for the immediate energy return. With how fast our ability energy is recovered, we can use this as an ongoing method to apply more weakening effects while our other methods can be used elsewhere. This is effective for ad control and even against bosses, but can backfire, as Suppressor Grenades can shut our abilities and super if not used correctly. This is my general theme for the build, that I have found to be quite effective actually. Now here are some of the mods for further cooldown along the way. Impact Induction ×1 for a 12% grenade buff, Momentum Transfer ×1 for a 12% melee buff, and Bolstering Detonation ×1 for a 12% class ability buff is all you need. Additional mods, we have the following. Heavy Ammo Finder, Reserve and Scavenger mods for a heavy weapon, Harmonic Siphon for creating auto power via matching elemental weapons, a Dynamo where using your class ability near enemies would generate super energy, Charged Up for a +1 armor charge, Void Surge for a 10% void weapon buff, Elemental Charge where picking up an elemental pickup will grant you armor charge, a Powerful Attraction for automatically collecting orbs of power when using your class ability, and Time Dilation where your decay and armor charge duration is increased. Now, as we have covered our exotic heavy weapon, I would then advise you to pick some super weapons for the build. What I recommend are all optional, so please keep this in mind. Our primary is the Veles X with Repulsor Brace and Golden Trigon. This weapon can only be gotten from Zavala a few seasons back, so unfortunately you can't get it now. You can easily replace it with a weapon that does have RP on it, such as the Maha HC4 hand cannon, which can roll with RP and destabilize them round, a good combo. For those that do have this weapon, this would be paired up with Echo Instability so that we can apply extra damage and also get an overshield via Repulsor Brace. This is ideal as the build will be quite mobile in its design, and we want to make fully sure we can engage threats with maximum protection before advancing. As secondary, we have the Lost Signal with auto-load holster and vorpal weapon. In terms of quick burst damage and applying extra debuff towards enemies with concussive reload, the following is suitable with aiding our super and applying extra damage over time and enhancing the rest of our kit's damage. This can be swapped out if you feel this is unnecessary, as we already have multiple ways of applying weaken with little effort, so this is just a choice to pick. Now, while I am very grateful to see Nova Warp active in Endgame Destiny 2, I feel like something is still missing with the super not being able to hit as hard as I liked. The build overall feels good to operate with, and its mobility and survival aspect offers players many ways to deal with crowded or single targets fairly well. Now, the build revolves around gathering ability and super energy fairly fast, while also having a proactive survivability kit built into it, which it does fairly well like shown. Being able to get constant ability energy through simple action with Nezarec on makes this build much more flexible in terms of what we pick and how we go about it. Also, I decided to lean more into the debuff realm of applying volatile rounds, Child of the Old Gods, suppressor grenades, and even Supernova seasonal mod, which is quite handy to have on hand as we can activate this through weapons or abilities alone. So while we drain the energy of everything around us, we also debuff the area we are in to make our lives even more easier for us to manage. Perfect for endgame. And while this is all good from the player's perspective, I feel Nova Warp needs a damage buff so it can hit harder against tougher enemies in PvE. The enhanced super regeneration is welcoming as it at least pushes players to use it more often over Nova Bomb, which is a big advantage. In fact, you can get your super back in under a minute as long as enemies are in the room for you, which, let me remind you, we do not have any additional exotics or buffs that are increasing our gains even more. This is just plain simple facts. As Nova Warp can be blended into a wide number of unique builds you wish, its one downside isn't that much of an issue in terms of its long-term usage. This build works best with it, as we can at least help make our super do a bit more damage on the side with the additional weakening effects we have on hand. And while this may affect us, if we're not careful, you can easily adapt to whatever is in your way. Simple, agile, and a welcome addition to endgame builds. So there we have it. I hope you all enjoyed the build breakdown. If you have any thoughts on content shared, then please leave a comment below. While if you enjoy the content and want more of these videos, then leave a like and a sub while you're here. A dim link for the build is located below in the pin section, and I do advise you to check out my playlist for more. It was great sharing today's video with you all, and I hope to see you again soon.